My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. Now at this point, I would like to say that we have one more grain to use of sandpaper, and that is the 240 grit. The finest grit I have in all these little sanding pads for the detail mouse sander. Now I will say that this will probably be the final sanding video, but I am thinking that after this, I might create one more video where I speak a little bit more about the project, just to keep the series going for one more night. So we're going to kind of get started here, and I'm going to show a little bit more of how it's done. So we're going to move down here and let you all see me use the final grit. And like we say, they're going to fly out of your hands sometimes. Probably mentioned that to you many times, but you're going to see it quite frequently. Now, as we go on to another step, there's going to be a little more to show going on, but we're going to finally take the little, if I can find one that's already used in here, a 240 that's already been used. I say, yeah, found one that's already been used to sand by hand, so we're finally going to sand it by hand. And while we're doing that, I will tell you all a little bit more about hippos. I will tell you that their name, hippopotamus, means river horse. Of course, probably gets that name because it looks so much like a horse in some ways, but it's actually not a horse. they are actually more closely related to creatures like cattle, goats, pigs, sheep, deer than they are to horses. Because hippos are artidactyls, meaning that, like the creatures I just mentioned that I told you they're more closely related to, they have an even number of sections in their hooves, while creatures like, and since my finger is bleeding, I might kind of get out a glove here so I don't get it on the wood. And creatures like horses, rhinos, and tapirs are actually parasidactyls, meaning they have an odd number of sections in their hooves. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes in as far as the relatives of the species. You might notice there are little differences, though. These other artidactyls I mentioned have like 2 sections in their foot, which is an even number. A hippo, on the other hand, has 4, which is also an even number. It's also different when it comes to creatures like horses and rhinos and tapirs as well. A horse has 1 section in its hoof. That is an odd number. While a rhino or a tapir has 3, which is also an odd number. So this is where we come with all these names of all these critters. There were things I used to misunderstand as a kid, you know. Like, you'll probably also know that it's like the name aardvark means earth pig, but the aardvark is actually not a pig. And, you know, of all names we find out, it's like a guinea pig is not a pig, a prairie dog is not a dog, a polecat is not a cat. That's just how we come up with all these things, that what creatures really are in spite of their names. So there's so much to find out about these wonderful creatures over time. And even as a kid, before I really got to studying into phylum, class, order, and family, there were times in my life when in a children's book I read that a hippo's name means river horse, and I got to thinking that it really was a horse. And as a result, even thinking at the time that rhinos and hippos were closely related, started thinking that a rhino was a wild breed of horse as well. In fact, I'll tell you all, that's not quite precise. Some creatures, most people don't really realize that a zebra is actually a wild breed of horse. Most people think it just looks like a horse and has stripes, but it really is a horse. It's a wild breed. And, you know, even donkeys, for example, which are domesticated now, they are members of the horse family as well. And they used to be a wild animal before people started domesticating them. And I tell y'all that of the story I told you in a recent video about the man who tried to keep a hippo as a pet in South Africa and all that happened, I will tell you that hippos are a creature that still have their wild instincts. So if you want to learn anything about that, you can learn it from him. So I say, with all the little animal facts I can tell you, there's so much you can learn over time. There's even pygmy hippos, which are a very small breed of hippo that can only be found in Madagascar. Of course, there are all kinds of interesting creatures in Madagascar. There's the fossa, which looks like a cat, but is really a member of the mongoose family. There are lemurs, which look a lot like monkeys. They're not exactly monkeys, but they are of the same order, which is primates. Even apes belong to the order primates. And to that matter, human beings belong to it as well. So do patos, lorises, tarsiers, all those creatures. In fact, the tarsier is like the only primate that is a strict carnivore, as you might find out if you read. And I say that it's been good to share all these animal facts here, tell you all these things, and when we do a follow-up, just to keep the series going one night, I will probably give you all a little more ideas as to what I have in mind for these little hippos. Take care. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.